The lethality assessment has been around for quite some time, but it started being discussed at a much larger scale after body cam video was released showing Gabby Petito with her fiance, Brian Laundrie, before her death. Now, Utah recently passed a law requiring all law enforcement agencies use this when abuse is suspected. So we are joined now by Jen Faumuina, who is a part of the Department of Public Safety, and Jen Campbell, who is the executive director of the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, to talk about this assessment. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. Thank you.
For people who aren't familiar with the lethality assessment, tell us a little bit on what this actually does.
Yeah, so it's a tool that officers use for the victims of domestic violence, specifically between intimate partners. And with this tool, it's more of a tool for officers to determine at what risk a victim is at that time, but also a tool for victims to really put into words as far as what they're experiencing.
And Jen, why is that important to educate the victims more with this? I mean, it's really a simple questionnaire. How much of a difference can this make?
Yeah, I think naming violence is really important for when someone's experiencing it, and helping them understand that what they're being told, often by those who are using violence against them, that this is their fault, or this is normal, or this is what relationships look like, that it's not, and that it's an indicator of risk, and that there's help and resources for them.
So this was recently launched at a larger scale, requiring all law enforcement agencies to use this. And we're finally getting some data on what's actually happening. Can you tell us what we've found so far?
Yeah, so obviously things went live in July, and with that, just July alone, we had approximately 1,200 assessments completed by agencies across the entire state. And that was a dramatic increase, So if you look to date now, we have approximately just over 4,000 screens that were actually completed. And so we're kind of already matching the stats which we saw for the year of 2022.
The entire year.
The entire year of 2022. But at the same time, we're also helping officers connect, or at least connect the dots and get a more comprehensive view as far as what they're dealing with, because now we're actually having analysts really look to see as far as the history of the offender at that time, to see whether or not there is an escalation of behavior, or if there were crimes committed, say, by an offender in Ogden and now they're in the Salt Lake area, to kind of connect all those dots with the agencies.
So are these assessments organized by offender name or victim name then?
By both.
By both, okay. And so by doing that, you're able to look possibly at multiple assessments to see if behavior is escalating to an even more dangerous point.
Yes.
Okay, why does that matter? What difference can that make?
It matters just because we're now helping officers, as well as, I should say, all agencies across the entire state, be on the same page when it comes to domestic violence, and seeing, say we have a victim and they have been a victim of this crime for so long, but now we're having agencies seeing it across the entire state. Because if you think about it, one just does not commit a crime in their area or where they reside. They travel across the entire state, and we're just seeing a more comprehensive view of that, but also helping these victims connect to people who can help them, which is huge. And I know we've also seen an increase in that with our providers.
And there's so many layers to domestic abuse, and unfortunately for these officers, oftentimes they're only there for an hour, so to get a better picture, this can be really helpful. I know some people have addressed privacy concerns with something like this, especially because no one has been convicted at this point, and it's another document showing, a possible pattern of behavior that maybe that person would say, I have never exuded. What is your response to that on people who have privacy concerns?
That's obviously one where we are educating our officers to really make that victim or survivor aware of that up front. Be like, look, just so you know that this may become public, in the court hearings, but there are ways in which we can protect it. And so we're doing our best to not only communicate with the victim, but also with the courts as well.
How has the reception been for law enforcement agencies having this new tool set?
Yeah, we had an opportunity to travel across the state since April until implementation and meet with all of the agencies and have the conversation. And I think the feedback we got was really, majority was positive, looking for something that could help quick assess and have a shared understanding of what they were seeing, and helping that really be shared with the victim, but also to get resources was really something that we were all looking for, and looking for a way to do that in a quick but effective way.
The lethality assessment, I think, is a real eye-opener for a lot of people. And it's for anyone who hasn't seen, we do have a link to it on our website, abc4.com. But there are certain questions in it that I think to the average person wouldn't even consider someone being dangerous. What are some of those questions that you think people wouldn't consider right off the bat that do make a difference, that can show that violence can escalate to a lethal level?
One question for me that was interesting was whether they were employed or not. And I think that was, when I first saw that, I thought, I don't know if that would have been an indicator of risk. But seeing that with other areas and other points of access, I think was also informative to help people see that this could add to the dynamics in your home that that someone is experiencing. And so that was one that for me that stood out.
Education and evidence-based information.
Right.
Is so important.
Right, and recognizing that each of these are an indicator of risk. But also, we always say to everyone, it's a tool, and really helping people recognize that even though that may not be reflective of what they're experiencing, if they're feeling they need help and services, reach out.
All right, well, Jen Campbell, Jen Faumuina, thank you so much for talking about this important subject. Now, before we go to break, we want to remind you of a very important resource. This is Utah's Domestic Violence Hotline. This hotline connects you with a variety of resources, including shelter, legal help, or maybe just someone to talk to. And the Domestic Violence Coalition also says this hotline can be for abusers who are trying to break the cycle of violence. So take a look. It's free, confidential, and available 24/7. Take a picture of the screen, write it down, or call right now if you or someone you know needs help. Please.